Draw in island style, even if you can't draw. I've been painting in one style lately, and even made a movie using this style for illustration. It's easy, even for those who cannot draw, to use, since you can easily use tracing. So let's look at this method to make some really cool work like these. So we're going to start in Procreate with a blank screen size. So I'll just hit the plus and screen size. We got a nice white screen. And I'm going to show you the basic technique with a quick drawing of a can, and then we're going to try it on some figures. So what we're going to start with is going to be in pencil. So go over here and go to sketching. And you can pick any one of the pencils. I'm going to use a 6B pencil, but HB works just as well. And we're just going to sketch. I tend to use, for sketching colors, I tend to use a blue-green. So we're just going to start with the blue-green color here. And I'm just going to sketch a can. And we've talked about in some of the earlier videos how to do that. So we're just going to make some ovals. I'm going to drop this down. Make another oval down here. I'm going to do two more. I'm just going to put a label on this can. So I'm going to make two more ovals and a line. Okay. And that's going to be my can. Again, it's not that great a drawing. It doesn't have to be. If you want to get a little more detailed or stuff like that, you can, of course, straighten these out. But it doesn't really matter because all you're going to use is this as a guide for the next step. Next, we're going to do is we're going to go over here to layers and make another layer. And this is going to be your inking layer. Now, you can label it inking if you want, but I'm not going to for this demo. I'm going to change my color to black. And once I have it in black, I'm going to start tracing. But I'm going to use a specific brush here. And so if you go to inking and you go to Baskerville, Baskerville is a self-smoothing brush. So a lot of the jaggy work you get in other brushes doesn't happen. It's also extremely pressure sensitive. So if, for example, if I use it on with the Apple Pencil, you'll see that I can actually, as I change the pressure here, change how the line looks. So you have to be a little careful about that. If you do it with your finger, it'll be a linear, pretty straightforward line. All right, and so what I'm going to do is just trace here. So I'm just going to go over this, like so. Okay, there's my first oval. I'll come down like this, take the front part of the oval, and there's a can. I'm going to do this linear piece here, and then take this part of the oval and this part of the oval. And I did a little bit off here, so I'm just going to erase with the Baskerville. And I have my eraser set for Baskerville, which makes it nice. All right. And so that's a can. That's all you need to do. I'm going to now look at this, make sure that everywhere there's a junction, there's a good clean line. So I'm going to go back into here with my brush and clean up those. So anywhere that's got possibility of a leak from a fill is going to need to be done here. And I'm going to do a leak from a fill intentionally because I'm going to put a shadow here. I'm going to just leave it like that. And this is about as wrong as you can get for what I'm going to do. Usually it's a small gap, but we'll see where we start seeing small gaps later. So that's all I need to do here. This next step is I'm going to take this layer, tap on the label, and you'll get the menu. And I'm going to change this to reference. Now, reference takes this image and uses as a reference for a fill on the layer above it. So I'm going to make another layer. So I'm going to start here, and let's go pick a color somewhere over here. Let's pick some kind of a dark color for this can. And that'll be my background for the can. Okay. And all I do is once I set my color is I drag the circle out, and it does something like that. And you can see what happens is because the lines are open, my shadow area has been filled in with that. I don't want that. So I'm going to two-finger tap to undo, and I'm going to fix my problem. And so here's how you have to do fixing. You have to be careful here. First, you're going to go into layer 2. Second, change your color back to black. Third, clean up this line. And when you're cleaning up the line, one thing you want to do to make them look clean is start way back. So I'm going to start back over here on my line and draw across like that, so it doesn't look like it's an extra line, and make sure I got a good connection. Now once I do that, go back to layer 3, and that's very important because another step we're going to use, we want to make sure that layer 2 and layer 3 are separate layers for what we're doing. And then I can go back and change my color. I have history here, so I can just go history to pick up my old color. You can check, make sure I'm on layer 3. And now that area is isolated from my background color. I can now go a little darker in that same color, and there's my shadow. And now I can add some more colors. Let's just make this, let's say a golden color can. Somewhere in that range, okay? I'm going to say that there's a little more light on that, so I'm going to make that one a little lighter. And finally, I want to use white. I want to make sure everything is filled here. You can sort of see the pencil marks in between there, so I want to fill in with white so that I have a solid line. And if you want, this is the reason we want to use a second layer here. This looks great, and this is one way you can do it, is have it with the black lines. But you can use the background color as well by turning off the reference layer. And now you've got an image with white lines. All right, so that is essentially the whole technique. And you can do that with other images. Now, I drew that. You can also do this with tracing. So let's go back over here. I have an already put together piece here. So I just made a image from a mannequin application. You can use photos, you can use whatever you want. You can collage some photos together of a background and some people or of objects. Whatever you want to draw, you can just put together and then trace over it. And that's what we're going to do here is we'll just use a trace. Now I'm going to make a couple of changes here. So I'm going to move these people over a little bit because I'm going to do a beach scene and I want more sun in there. Okay. And so we've got them over here. So I just move them over a little bit. And we'll leave them about that size. And I'm going to make a couple of layers here. So I'm going to make 2 layers for background, okay? So layer 2 will be my background layer. I'll start with that one just so you can see what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to change back to black here because it's easier to see. And with traces, I tend to like to change the opacity because it's easier to avoid confusion about what is what in this drawing. So now I've just closed down the opacity so they're a little fainter. Okay, and then go back up here to layer 2. And I'm just going to throw a line in here. And I'll throw another line over here. All right. Now these lines are not off the page, so I'm going to zoom back out here and do them again. And you want to go all the way across for these because, again, you're going to want to avoid the gaps. As long as you're off the page when you stop your pen, then it will be a good fill. And so these are going to be my horizon and my ocean lines for the final drawing in the background. And what I'll do is I'll just throw a couple extra ones in here. Okay. I'm going to throw a circle in here. So I'm just going to do a circle like this. Hold it down for a couple seconds. You'll see it says ellipse up here. I'm going to change that to a circle. And I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And throw a couple more lines on this page. I'm going to do a wavy line here. And you can see it doesn't like wavy lines that much because of Baskerville. But again, you want to make sure that you catch all of those have got fully across the page. Check your lines here. Most of them look pretty good. Okay. And I could do something similar with this bottom piece, which will probably be sand, but I'm not going to do that strong a line here. Okay. All right, so that's going to be my background. And I can go hide that for now. And I can now go back over here to layer 3 and start working on these people. And I'm just going to trace them. So I just do a very rough trace. This is all about abstract here. So you don't have to get as detailed as you would with other types of drawing. So as far as the face is concerned, I'm leaving it out. I'm just making a shape for the face. and pretty much doing an outline for a lot of this stuff. There are places where I might make some extra lines that suggest parts of the body, like the pectorals here. And his forearm is in front of the rest of his arm, so I'm making that one. Check my lines here. This is an example of one of those places you might end up with a gap, so you got to be careful with that. And now I'll do his torso. And I'll come around on the shorts here. Well, I can use the shorts that are here, or I can get creative. And I'm going to actually get a little creative. I'm going to go out of the shorts just a little bit here, so that he has a little looser shorts on. Okay, like that. And we've got a foot behind that, so let's just make it like that. And then just keep working down the figure. Again, you can go over your lines, but go back a little bit before you do that, so they come together. And when you join them, do the same thing, so you get a nice continuous line. And I've got the rest of this leg to do, and he's done. And now I'll do her, and with a female figure, same deal. And to give it more of a top feel, is I'm going to just angle that line so it's a little rougher of a line, because that makes it feel more like a top than it does just some covered up nude parts. All right. And now I have rendered these figures, okay? Now what I'll do is I can turn off the background here, and my trace is done. Just take a look, see if there's anything that looks like I missed a gap or anything. And it looks like I'm good. I got one gap over here, which I can just fix. But I got all the trace. And if I hadn't missed any pieces of the trace, in fact I did, I can see one right here, I'll put them in. So for example, there's a little bit of shoulder showing here. So I'm going to catch that detail. All right, now we got that done. Now I'm going to start with this foreground layer, and I'm going to go ahead and make this a reference layer. Add 2 more layers, and layer 5 will be my people layer here. And I'm going to start making them. Okay, and now I'm going to pick a tone, and for skin tones, again, I've talked about this before. You've got anywhere in this range depending on the individuals that you're trying to do. I'm going to do them, they've been running on the beach a little too much, so they're going to get in the darker range of stuff. Okay, and I'm on layer 5. I've got reference on, and I can start filling. And I'm just zoom in a bit so it's easier to fill. And you're just going to drag that over. Again, color doesn't have to have high detail. You're not going to get perfect skin tones here. If you want, you can, but it's abstract, so it's supposed to be giving you more suggestion than anything else. And so someone who's a little more orange is going to be okay here. But that's what you're going to do. I'm going to do the same thing for her. I'm going to use the same color. So I'm just going to go like this and fill in those spaces. You can see if you do it too far out, you'll hit the lines, and then the lines will fill in. Do a 2-finger tap or an undo and go back. Zoom in a little bit more so that you hit the dots right. Okay, and you can see I made a mistake. This piece on the top of the shoulder here, which I'm now going to undo, is supposed to be shirt, and you can see I've got a really tiny gap there. So I'm going to go back and fix it. And so go back to reference, go back to black, fix it like this. Remember to change your color back. And if you don't have history, by the way, you can also sample your colors. As you've worked, you've already got colors here, so I can just hold down my finger on one of the areas that has color, and that'll get me my old color. Then make sure you go back to layer 5, because otherwise that will be a disaster. And you want to be able to get rid of those lines or change the lines to other colors, and that works best if you have 2 sets of lines. Okay. And so now I've got two people that are running, and I'm going to put them on a beach. So I've got my layer 5 I'm going to shut off for now. And layer 3 I'm going to shut off for now. I'm going to turn on layer 4 and layer 2. Okay. Now, I made a whole bunch of lines here, and here's what we're going to be doing with these lines. I'm going to make this so that the two darkest lines here break me apart from on the bottom, my ground, and then in the middle, some water, and then on the top, the sky. And this is going to be a sunrise or sunset, so I have a sun in there. And I'm actually going to start with the sun because it's an easy piece to start with. I already have yellow, and I'm going to use this bright yellow here as the piece I'm going to do. I'm going to move that to layer 4 because I want to draw on layer 4, and it doesn't work. Why does it not work? Because you've got to make sure that you also change your reference layer here so it's the correct reference layer. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to drag it into here, and I can do something like that, okay? And now it's just a matter of putting more layers in. And I'm going to do a gradient on this sunrise. So I'm just going to keep changing my color here to different colors as I go closer to red and then into blue. So I'm going to start here in yellow-orange. And let's just speed this up a little bit so you just watch me do some filling in real quick here. Okay, so we've got ourselves a sunrise. And now I can do the bottom part of this. This is going to be ocean. And you can see I've made a mistake. What I did here was I put this on the reference layer. So instead of putting it on layer 4, which is a common mistake to do, make sure you do use the right layers. And the problem is, if I get rid of this layer, I get rid of all my fills too, and I don't want that. I want to be able to use the white here. I'm going to keep going the way I have it. When you're doing a 2-layer thing, it's not as much of a problem, but given how we've started this, I'm just going to keep going with it. But that's one of the things you want to watch is you may have to undo that and start from scratch on what you're doing with that. For water, I tend to keep in this range of colors. And I'll speed it up again just to finish off this piece. Is now I can go back to yellow and put some solar reflections in here. And I'm actually going to use one more layer like that in a little bit darker blue. In here, I'm going to go back into these blue-greens. And you can start to see how this is all coming together. And finally, I'll use some sand. Sand is in this range usually, so let's just pick it somewhere really pale yellow-orange here. And I can start throwing some colors in there. And I'll darken it a little bit, just like this. All right, and that's pretty much my scene. So now I can go put my people back. And you'll see what we've got here. We got one little line issue that we've got to fix. That I did get a line in this reference. So I'm going to go cut these guys out and just take my color here that I have and just drag over top of it. I'll make my brush a little bigger. I don't want to use an eraser because that'll erase the color. But what I really want to do is just color over it. So if you get mistakes like that, that's how to do that. All right, and then once I'm done with that, I put my color, got people back. And here's what they look like. I didn't put their hair in, so let's go back and make sure we get the hair. And I'm just going to use black for that. And I'm going to put back these lines. And I missed her ear. And there you go. You have a pretty nice scene right there. You can, of course, do as we did before and pull this layer off. But once you start getting backgrounds, you're going to see the problem. And you can see the exact problem I was talking about earlier, that if you put the fill on, which I did with the hair, you're going to get not the greatest image. So I'm going to go ahead and undo these and fix that and go back up here to layer 5, pull up the black, and take care of those hair issues one more time. And as I'm showing, yeah, you will make mistakes. It's just going to happen. So it's a good idea to know how to fix them as well. So that's why I keep going through this. I am making mistakes and showing you how to fix them as well so that you have a good picture. If I get rid of layer 3, I get an interesting thing because we've got the background is going to come through on those people. And that will give them a little bit different look. So you may want to use it that way, or you may want to use it this way. You can also duplicate that layer and then fill in the layer. So I can do duplicate and maybe take this layer 3 that's not a reference, zoom in on the lines here, and change that to white if you'd like to have white on your figures like I have here on her. Maybe I'll do it to him too. And you can get a little bit of a different look than you would have otherwise. And so there's our image, which you can then go save and sign it and do everything you want. So that's the kind of thing I do with many of those images that I've been putting out there. Like I said, I made a whole movie using these for an accounting movie of all things. But those are the way that you would take care of this. And it's a very fast and efficient way, even if you don't know how to draw, to make some really nice paintings. If you'd like to see more of my artwork, I post a new piece daily on Patreon at patreon.com/makeappie. If you want a full video of me working on this piece, a lot of pre-release videos, and my thoughts on creativity, subscribe to my Patreon page. Thanks for watching, and keep creating.